Are you familiar with the process of the witches?
You think she's that child?
This week on At the Movies with Ebert and Roeper, Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig in The Golden Compass.
You can take the children, but you leave me my monkey.
Early review of John C. Reilly in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
I love you. Come back to me.
Keira Knightley and James McAvoy in Atonement.
Plus, we'll tell you why we love Juno.
Little pink plus sign is so unholy.
That ain't no Etch-a-Sketch.
It's the Golden Compass, Lyra. I feel you're meant to have it.
But what's it for?
It lets you glimpse what is to come.
I have to go back to the north very soon. Perhaps you should come along.
Me? North? It's cold up there.
Nicole Kidman is a mysterious woman who leads a mysterious organization that kidnaps children for mysterious reasons. I'm Richard Roeper.
And I'm A.O. Scott from the New York Times.
Yes, you are.
Very mysterious.
Well, I've heard that about you. All right, Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig are the big-name stars in The Golden Compass, but they really have secondary roles in the first leg of this three-part series. The real stars of this trippy and unique adventure are the child actors and the special effects. This is one weird, sometimes stupidly weird movie, but I have to say it held my interest throughout, so I'm recommending it.
The magisterium is what people need. They keep things working by telling people what to do.
But you told the master you did whatever you pleased.
Ah, that's right, clever girl.
That's Dakota Blue Richards, who's very plucky and sassy and likable as Lyra. And that's Kidman behind all that makeup and soft focus as Mrs. Coulter, a mysterious and powerful woman. Craig plays Lord Asriel. Like everyone else, he has a tangible soul in animal form. They're called demons.
We shall have to watch ourselves, Delmaria. You can bet that Coulter woman has hired every Samoyed bandit from here to the pole to hunt us down.
As Lyra tries to learn why the Magisterium is kidnapping children and separating them from their demons, she encounters all sorts of magical creatures, including armored bears. Pretty neat CGI stuff there. I don't think those are real armored bears. Some of the material is wildly imaginative. Some of it's just kind of silly, but it all looks good. The kids are likable. Kidman makes for an intriguing villain. So, this isn't Harry Potter. It's not even Narnia, but I thought it was a pretty interesting fantasy world.
I think that's about right. I mean, there's an awful lot of explaining that goes on and exposition, and every time you think you've got it figured out what this world is, there's some new element, some new strange place or creature or race of people or whatever. But I think, yeah, the kids are good. The CGI, I love the way the animals are always in the frame, you know, walking on these little birds, and Nicole Kidman's is this yellow monkey that she slaps in the face at one point.
Well, you know, it's pretty dark stuff, Tony. You raised some good points there. This is PG-13. I know this is being sold and you know, it was very much beloved as you know, kind of children's fantasy, but not very small children. They'll be, I think, creeped out and scared by some of this stuff.
And it's got some very interesting themes, too. I mean, if you think of, you know, the classic fantasy movies are about good against evil. This one is much more about authority versus freedom, about who has control over the minds and lives of these children, and about the kind of the rebellion of the Daniel Craig character and this little girl against these authority figures. And I like also the fact that it's a little girl who's the heroine of this movie.
Yeah, and she's got some neat little friendships going on, and it's definitely part one. And I think at some point, if you don't know the books, you just let it wash all over you and just sort of experience it and say, okay, I'm going to go along with this. There's Sam Elliott in the sky, and there's Eva Green as a witch, and I like the armored bears, and just sort of enjoy that part of it.
McKellen is the talking bear.
Yeah,
cool.
why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Next is The Amateurs, and it's about a bunch of regular guys, go ahead, call them losers, from a town called Butterface Fields. I don't know why that town is called that, but never mind. They decide that their way out of their unsatisfying small-town lives is to make a porno movie. The cast of The Amateurs, I mean not the skin flick, includes Ted Danson, Lauren Graham, Patrick Fugit, Joe Pantoliano, Tim Blake Nelson, and, above all, Jeff Bridges, who plays Andy, the guy whose bright idea it was to put Butterface Fields on the adult entertainment map.
We're going to be the first town to band together to make the first full-length feature amateur adult film.
The mystery at the heart of this odd little picture is why.
There's a name for people like me. They're called writer-directors. We do two things. Hollywood had to invent it because there's a lot of people in Hollywood like me that are multi-gifted.
The Amateurs is pretty tasteless, and it is painful to watch such multi-gifted professionals flail around trying to breathe some life into a project that unfortunately lives up to its name.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tony. Butterface Fields, I believe that's a porn star name, right? You know, okay. I think this Jeff Bridges character, he's got a cousin named the Dude somewhere, you know, and I like Jeff Bridges a lot, but we've seen that character before. And you're right. I mean, they try to have it both ways, or no ways, I guess, because it's not a sexy comedy.
No.
And it's not a fun story. It's one of those towns populated entirely by whimsical, colorful characters.
Yes, who they gather at the local watering hole and they drink their beers. Yeah. And it's one of those movies that occasionally do show up that have these incredible casts that have been around. This one, I think, has been sitting around for a couple of years. Yeah, it changed its title a couple times. And
do not waste your time with the Amateurs.
This is one to skip. But later in the show, from the people that brought us Knocked Up and Superbad, we have John C. Reilly in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. And coming up next, Keira Knightley stars in Atonement.
I love you. I'll wait for you.
I need your help.
Does it involve treasure?
On December 21st, follow the clues. The greatest adventure in history.
Doesn't make any sense.
As if the clues ever do.
National Treasure, Book of Secrets. Rated PG. Starts December 21st.
Take the flowers.
I'm all right.
Take the flowers.
I'm all right. You idiot. You realize that's probably the most valuable thing we own?
Not anymore, it isn't.
Keira Knightley continues her quest to set the all-time record for costume drama roles with Atonement. Based on the Ian McEwan novel that some say was unfilmable, this is a project that drips with prestige, sometimes self-consciously so. Knightley, though, does give one of her best performances as Cecilia. She's a 1930s socialite who loves the housekeeper's son. He's Robbie, played by James McAvoy. Now, she tries to drive him away by ignoring him, then treating him rudely, but their love is undeniable. Cecilia's younger sister, Bryony, is an insanely precocious girl who misreads the sexual chemistry between Cecilia and Robbie. She believes that Robbie attacked her sister.
Celia!
Bryony!
You ought to call the police.
You saw him?
Yes, I saw him. I know it was him.
You know it was him?
I saw him with my own eyes.
And before the night is over, that little girl will ruin Robbie's and Cecilia's lives with a horrible and false accusation. It's years before Robbie and Cecilia are reunited in an achingly tentative meeting against the backdrop of World War II.
Something to think of while you're away.
I thought Atonement worked best as a melodrama, with some of the early scenes told from multiple points of view. When the war takes center stage, the human drama dims. Atonement has hints of greatness, but I think it falls just short of Oscar contention. I'm saying see it, but it's not one of the best movies of the year.
I think it falls even. I would give it the Memoirs of a Geisha award for failed literary adaptation.
So you're not recommending
I am not recommending this.
Right.
I think the book is excellent. I think that the first part, when they're in the country house and Bryony's intrigue gets
flitting about the house and the typewriter
very well
clacking and all
that's very well done. And then I think once the scope widens and you get the war and the retreat from Dunkirk, as you say, we've been there before, and it's not clear what it's adding to this story or what the backstory that we've just had is adding to this. This is one of those movies where the score drove me out of my mind, because there's this thing that they keep doing with a one piano key going ding, 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 and then a typewriter key going click, click, click,
I like
click,
that.
Ding,
I
ding,
thought
click,
that was
click.
cool.
And then at some point, Brenda Blethyn comes out and starts beating on a car with an umbrella, and that gets added into it.
You didn't like that? You thought that was a little too Blue Man Group for you? No, see, Tony, I thought that was clever. I didn't think it drew too much attention to itself. I think maybe you were just a little over-caffeinated and distracted. And I think we agree about the weaknesses of this film, but I think the strengths are enough to recommend it, but you're saying no.
For me, the weaknesses really, really undid it. I think, I mean, I admire the book a lot, and I think that the final revelation that comes at the end, that is supposed to be such a shock, didn't work for me.
Really?
It wasn't prepared for right, and I thought all of the stuff in the middle, there was too much montage, not enough happening between the characters. I think this is a movie that started very strong and then just went
but then came back up
downhill.
just enough to recommend
No.
All right. Later in the show, John C. Reilly walks hard. And next, we'll talk about a little movie that we're hoping will take Oscar voters by storm.
That was magical.
You never thought I could do anything either.
Why are you comparing me to Dad?
Looking at movies now in theaters, Tony and I are both big fans of the writing and the performances in The Savages and Starting Out in the Evening, and we loved Juno, which opens in limited release this weekend.
Your little girlfriend gave me the stink eye in our class yesterday.
Katrina's not my girlfriend, all right? And I doubt that she gave you the stink eye. That's just the way her face looks, you know? That's just her face.
You know, there's a lot of Oscar talk about Ellen Page, and I think she's going to get a nomination. I think she deserves a nomination. But, Tony, Jennifer Garner and Jason Bateman and J.K. Simmons and Allison Janney, everybody in this film is so good. Michael Cera's so good.
And also what's great about this movie, I think, is that, you know, it takes the sort of the Judd Apatow knocked up, super bad kind of take on comedies of sexual anxiety and you know, teenage sexuality, and gives it a really from a girl's point of view. I mean, it's great to have
a little more, you know, I think insightful level. Yeah,
yes, more realism.
Yeah.
But also it has this heroine who shows that, you know, a young woman can be just as smart and pop culture savvy and funny and also just as foolish as some of the guys in those movies. And Ellen Page is just a terrific actress.
Yeah, I really love this
breakthrough. Me too. And our next movie is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. It opens in 2 weeks. This is an early review. It would hardly be Oscar season without a biopic about a famous musician, a big, lavish production with lots of old songs, period clothes, and a story of childhood trauma, drug addiction, and sexual abandon. Thank God there's nothing like that coming out this year. Instead, there's something better. Walk Hard, a parody of the genre, directed by Jake Kasdan and starring John C. Reilly as Dewey Cox, a simple farm boy from Alabama who grows up to live all the cliches that make the American musical biopic the envy of the world.
Dang, Elvis Presley, you didn't have to rile them up like that.
What now?
No,
excuse me, what?
I'm just saying, we gotta follow that.
Listen to this right now. There's two things you need to know. I'm the king, and number two is, look out, man, look at that, they're coming at you, you see that?
His father doesn't love him. His brother dies in an accident. He loses his sense of smell. And of course, his first marriage falls apart.
What about my dreams?
Edith, I told you I can't build your candy house. It will fall down. The sun will melt the candy. It won't work.
It will if it never rains.
Now, you listen to me. I'm gonna make this dream come true.
That there is Kristen Wiig as Edith, the first Mrs. Cox, and she's part of a cast that features a lot of SNL cast members and Judd Apatow stock company regulars. And let's not forget the songs, perfect travesties of every genre under the sun, including a double entendre country and western duet called, what else? Let's Duet.
Let's duet in ways that make us feel good. Let's duet. Make that sacred sound.
Oh. Dewey Cox! I am not that kind of woman.
Jenna Fisher is very funny as Darlene, the second Mrs. Cox, June Carter to Dewey's Johnny Cash. Best of all is John C. Reilly, receiving a long-deserved promotion from affable sidekick and giving a performance that's so much more than just mimicry. Watching this film, you'd swear this guy really is Dewey Cox.
Yeah, you can understand why the Dewey Cox estate participated in this film with full cooperation.
Yes,
Tony, I'm right with you on this. I like this film more. The more I think about it, the more I like it. But yeah, you're right. At some point, you know, you feel like you're watching a kind of Naked Gun, over-the-top, scary movie, you know, where it's really just going over the top. And then at other points, it's more like A Mighty Wind, the Christopher Guest school of very mild, gentle satire. And some of it works better than others. But the songs are actually...
The songs are amazing.
They're dead on, you know?
When he does the Bob Dylan sequence. I like it when it sort of goes into the 60s and goes completely crazy. So he goes through his Brian Wilson phase where he's, you know, tripping on acid and wearing a dashiki and has didgeridoo players.
And they keep saying, you know, I'm John Lennon of the Beatles, you know, like, which they kind of do in some of those movies, like they hammer it home, like, you know, you're seeing Buddy Holly right here. You're seeing
What
Elvis
do you have
right
to say,
here.
Buddy Holly?
Yeah.
And there's this great bit, which is almost like an outtake from I'm Not There, where he's playing the exact same Bob Dylan that Kate Blanchett is playing in that movie.
Oh, and you're right, John C. Reilly, you know, he's a big talent. It's kind of fun to see him get a showcase role like this.
And it's nice to see some of the seriousness and sameness of these movies really skewered in this way.
They deserve it. Okay, a very different film. John Cusack is one of the best actors of his generation, never to be nominated for an Oscar. I think he gives an award-worthy performance playing against type in Grace is Gone. Some of the best movies about the effects of the war in Iraq focus on the families back home. Cusack plays Stanley, who's left in charge of his two daughters because their mother is off to war.
Mr. Phillips, I regret to inform you, on behalf of the President of the United States,
that Sergeant Grace Ann Phillips was killed at 2100 hours on March 12th.
I was in the shower.
Lacking the strength to deliver the devastating news about their mother to the girls, Stanley takes them on a road trip, which becomes an exercise in denial.
Now, it's a one-time only offer in Enchanted Gardens right now.
Right now, Heidi,
Right now!
Do we have an atlas?
Let's do it!
Ah!
Grace is Gone is written and directed by James Strauss. His writing is pure and honest. His directing technique is simple, but I think effective. Cusack is just as good playing a father as he's been in his quipster bachelor roles. And the girls, Shaylin O'Keefe and Grace Bednarczyk, deliver two of the most natural and heartbreakingly real performances by child actors in recent memory. I thought this was a very strong and very moving film.
I did not, actually. I thought that
Really?
there's a fine line always between exploring emotions and exploiting them. And I felt like this was one of those cases where you were so aware, or I was so aware, of Cusack trying to play against type, trying to be a quiet, buttoned-up, serious guy, that it really got in the way of his performance.
Really?
I agree about the girls.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear you
I
say
thought
that.
the girls worked very well and showed some very real sibling dynamic there. But I just thought that the movie was so kind of one note and simplistic, and it didn't let me into the emotions.
I don't think it's one note at all, Tony. And I understand what you're saying about John Cusack, because I mean, maybe the walk, the kind of halting gait, is one affectation too many. But I thought he did a really good job of playing that guy, and you see him just struggling so hard. I mean, he's completely lost. He's doing the best he can, yet he can't face up to this moment for a long time. And I thought, the build-up to that was unbearably authentic.
I didn't find that, and I also found that the conceit of the road trip struck me as a very, a bit of a cliche at this point. When the going
Really?
is, get the girls in the car and let's go on a drive. Let's go see some motels.
But come on, you got to give it more credit than that. They're not saying let's go see some motels. This guy is literally driving away from reality and the truth, and a moment that he knows is going to stick with these girls forever. And even his brother, who is a jerk, and
then when they get to the moment, they cut out the dialogue.
His brother says to him, they're going to hate you for this. And I thought that was so well done.
And his brother, the anti-war guy who just happens to be like, deadbeat pothead speaking to like all the liberals.
Because we don't have it. Oh, no. I think you're not giving this film justice, Tony. It's not that simplistic. It's better than that.
Well, I didn't think so.
All right. Coming up next, Jason Bourne's coming to your house to talk to you about that review. And he finally comes home in one of the best action franchises, I think, of the last decade. But first, here's a look at what's coming up on next week's show.
I can fix this! Let me save you!
I want you bleeders.
You, sir! To, sir. Welcome to the
This week's video segment is brought to you by Raisinets. Make a deliciously smart choice with Raisinets.
You're a really good teacher, Harry.
All right, looking at movies new on DVD, one big movie I liked is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. One small film I really liked, Steve Buscemi and Sienna Miller in a film called Interview. Not so much, though, with December Boys. And my video pick this week is The Bourne Ultimatum. I think Matt Damon is just terrific in this trilogy.
Where are you now?
I'm sitting in my office.
I doubt that.
And why would you doubt that?
If you were in your office right now, we'd be having this conversation face to face.
This film has some of the most amazing action sequences. It's directed by Paul Greengrass, who did the last two entries in this trilogy, Tony. And I just think, taken as a whole, this Jason Bourne character, he's right up there with Daniel Craig's Bond as my favorite action heroes of the 21st century.
I think so, and it's amazing the minimalism of the performance and the brilliance of the effects.
Yeah.
It's
really cool stuff.
Really cool stuff. I'm picking a DVD box that makes me want to call in sick for the next month and skip all of those new movies that are coming out. I don't know how they could match the 24 features on the 21 discs that make up the new Ford at Fox set. John Ford was one of the giants of American cinema. His career went from the silent era to the 60s, and for this collection, 20th Century Fox dug deep into their vaults, including not only classics like My Darling Clementine and The Grapes of Wrath, but also less-known treasures from Ford's early days. Lately, I've been wearing out my discs of Ford's great Warner Brothers westerns with John Wayne, so this set arrives just in time to feed my growing Ford habit.
All right, so the Ford at Fox box set is available now. The Bourne Ultimatum will be in stores on Tuesday. And remember, you can go to atthemoviestv.com to find out what we had to say before making your home video choices. We'll be back to recap this week's show right after this.
Closed captioning for Ebert and Roeper is sponsored by... Guests of Ebert and Roeper stay at the Peninsula Chicago, the city's most exciting luxury hotel located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile.
Okay, recapping the movies on this week's show. We both liked The Golden Compass and Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. That one opens in 2 weeks. We split on Atonement. We split again on Grace is Gone. I liked them both. Tony did not. And neither of us liked The Amateurs.
And there's also Juno, which is opening in limited release, which is just a really special movie with some wonderful performances, great writing, a keeper.
A real keeper. All right, that's it for this week. Until next week, the balcony is closed.